Good morning, everyone. Well, it's a beautiful Monday morning on the muggy side here in Red Wing, but it's still nice on the cool side. Thought I'd get out here early this morning and enjoy it because it's going to heat up, and with the humidity, it'll make very, very hot and sticky afternoon. But just to bring you up to speed where we're at with the podcast, it's taking a little bit longer to get it all together. I tell you, it's been a lot of work trying to get everything automated and connected, and a lot of it isn't even uploaded yet. The updates to the websites and things, the content and the links and all that stuff is still being what's the best way to describe it? It's not developed. It's not being created. It's just, I don't use AI in any of my stuff, and I don't suspect I ever will. I'm not going to say never will. There may be some use for it down the road, but when it comes to content and important topics, you can't use AI for that. For the types of things that we need to discuss, AI is, well, I'm still on the fence about its long-term benefits to us as a whole. In the wrong hands, and there's so many wrong hands that walk amongst us, that it can be a very, very dangerous thing. And I'm no saint myself, but I would never use that type of technology in any way that would harm people, especially in the way that type of technology could harm people. I mean, we're already seeing it. We're already seeing people use it to cheat on homework assignments in school. I just received a message from the school I'm attending about their efforts to be able to distinguish what assignments were turned in using AI to do it versus what was done what they refer to as organically. But I don't want to go down that road with any of the things that I do, whether it's my e-commerce business, the pet store, Fleabee, or the podcast itself that is going to be part of this. It's just not a direction I want to go. I think, in my opinion, and you can beat me up on it, but I think it dumbs us down. It makes people look smarter than they are by allowing it to do content creation for you. I don't want to go that route. Personally, I would rather spend a little more time thinking about things, and down to even word usage. AI is great at. I've played with it just to see what it does, and it's amazing what it'll create for you. But you're not even. You're not burning up any brain cells. I was looking at. I needed to resubscribe to a legal research platform, and because it's been a few years since I subscribed to any of them. So I was looking up the other day what was available, and of course, LexisNexis is still there. Westlaw's still there. Lois Law's gone. That's been replaced by something else. But even I was looking at the Westlaw, and I'm waiting to hear back from the sales rep on that today. They're promoting the use of AI in developing legal pleadings, and which I'm sure encompasses motions, appeals. You know, it takes the real skill out of it from a personal standpoint. You know, I'm surprised the legal community is going that direction, because a lot of these motions and pleadings that are filed in court these days, before AI even came into existence, a lot of it lacked the type of sincerity and expressiveness that it needed to be effective in court, because the people that drafted it lacked those abilities. But now those people that lacked those abilities previously will be able to rely on AI, and now all of a sudden be better at what they were doing. But that doesn't make them a better attorney. You know, they're still the shitty attorney they were before the AI came into play. AI saved them, and that shouldn't be the case. I'm just not going to go there, and I'm not going to take anything that the podcast does in that direction. Or, like I said, I'm not going to take anything. You know, there's a lot of things I could do on the marketing end for Fleabee.com, the pet store, but I won't. You know, I'd rather. You know, Fleabee.com has been up now for. I've had it up there 6 months. I haven't started marketing it yet. It's, you know, if you went there and you looked at the website, you'd see that it's there, and it kind of, on the surface, it looks finished, but it's not. You know, a lot of the products that are there need to be removed because they're garbage. I don't like the products that were put on there, because I originally didn't set up that site. I got lured into that e-commerce world with a sales pitch from some e-com guru on I don't know, YouTube or Facebook that sucked you in for $20, that they'll build you this great Shopify website, and I thought, well, okay, $20, you know, that's, you know, cost of breakfast. Yeah, okay, I'll pay the $20. I paid the $20, and a few days later, you know, I get an email saying my store is ready, and I log in, and I'm thinking, this looks terrible. You know, this is I can't use this, but it got me in. You know, it got my foot in the e-commerce world, and then that's when I decided, well, actually, that's what led me to go back to school. You know, I started thinking, well, because this guy had all kinds, after he got you in on the $20 deal, there was all kinds of upsells. And then I kept on looking at YouTube videos and other things that were available that you see on Facebook. Facebook seems to be bombarded with it these days by these so-called gurus that promise promise the moon. They promise everybody six-figure incomes, and you know, and the reality is, it's not there. You know, you know, they want everyone to think that you can open up these e-commerce stores, and you're gonna, within a few months, be making six-figure incomes. And the reality is that it's all BS. You know, there's only so many people interested in whatever particular store you're opening. Like for example, for me, pet stores. Mine is going to be strictly canine. My interest. I love all animals. When I was driving over the road, even though we're not allowed to under DOT regulations, change lanes to avoid hitting wildlife. If it was safe for me to do so, I did so. I didn't want to hit anything. I didn't care if it was a deer or a rabbit, a raccoon, or even a possum. I don't want to kill anything if I can avoid having to kill it. If I can safely move over and change lanes or slow down, do whatever I needed to do to avoid hurting that particular animal and letting it live another day. It shouldn't die just because I have to move freight. I'm in a rush and DOT says I can't change lanes because they'd rather see me take out the wildlife than take corrective actions to preserve it. But that's just me. I've seen other drivers, they seem to get off on running over stuff. They kind of enjoyed plowing down deer. Why, I don't know, but it's just people today. Live in a different world. But like I said, the podcast, it's in the works, and we're gonna have some interesting guests. We're gonna have some great topics. There's no short of things to talk about, and it's just taking me a little longer to put together because I want to make sure that when it does start airing, that it's going to be consistent. It's going to be every week. It's going to be covering topics that are important to all of us, and using the platforms that are the easiest for everyone to use. I'm still leaning towards the StreamYard program. That seems to be the simplest for everyone involved, whether it's for me or the future guests, or the end or the audience. It's an easy platform for everyone to get on and without all kinds of extra logins or meeting ID codes like with the Zoom, and it's simple and it has a lot of great features. I started hooking up the booster yesterday, and found a good place to mount it. I just need to I'm going to be doing it today. I got to stop and pick up some bolts to mount the outside antenna where that's going to go. So hopefully that'll be done this afternoon, after the afternoon heat. The weather's really strange here. It just seems you can count on it by lunchtime just being really uncomfortable outside, and then by 5 in the afternoon it gets nice again, and like it is now, minus the humidity, and it so you get everybody seems to come back out and start doing things again. But there's that 4 or 5 hour window in the middle of the afternoon that's kind of miserable between the heat and humidity that everybody seems to go back indoors. But I have some appointments at Mayo today, relatively soon here too. I got to get moving. But I thought I'd jump on here while it was still cool and quiet before everybody wakes up and we have to deal with all the background noise. But we're probably still a couple weeks away from the podcast officially airing its first episode, and I'm waiting to hear back from some guests that I'd like to start with, one of them is a former governor, and it's looking like he's going to be joining on one of the early episodes. And we're going to be discussing Medicaid and its evolution and progress over the years from when he was a governor to today, and how it applied towards people with multiple sclerosis. Because he was a big help to me in my mom's MS, and the difficulties I had getting help for her through the Medicaid system. And that's going to be the main focus of his attending that particular episode. And there's some other guests that I'm lining up that will be equally as interesting to tune in and listen to. And some shows I'll just do myself, with some documents, and things of that nature, some videos, it's going to be, they'll be rounded, and they'll be very easy to follow, and we'll just plow ahead. 2024 is right around the corner as far as the election cycle goes, and it's we need to talk about where we're going to go with that as far as candidates at various levels of government. We need some serious changes there, and it starts with who we vote for. So we have to have a lot of discussions on that. There's at the presidential level, there's a lot of good candidates right now that are that I've been watching, that and I'll continue to watch, because I'm nowhere near close to saying that I'm going to go with one person or the other at this point, but they're on both sides of the aisle. There's some good Democrats running. There's some good Republicans running. It's going to boil down to, at the end of the day, who we believe is going to do what they say they're going to do. But those things we'll cover in the future episodes, and I just hope that you guys stay engaged, stay involved, pay attention, and participate and vote. It's going to be important for everyone to get out there and vote, whether you end up voting for someone that I like or not. That's your choice. But whoever you vote for, just make sure you know who you're voting for. You have to understand your candidate's background, your choice's background, and truly believe if what they're telling you is in fact what they're going to do. Because I've seen so many in my lifetime where they ran on a particular platform, and as soon as they got into office, they did a complete 180. in some cases, never did any of the things that they actually campaigned on. So we really got to pay attention, especially for this next election cycle. There's so much going on globally that really could alter how we actually end up voting in 2024. But that's yet to all develop. I think we're going to see a lot happen over there in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine over the next few months. And a person that really described that conflict really well was one of the Kennedys. And I actually saved his interview that he did discussing that. Shaitan, don't even look over there. You mind your own business. You stay there. He discusses the Ukraine-Russian conflict and breaks it down in a very understanding way that is true. And I would encourage you to scroll down on my site and take a look at it and listen to that interview that he did, because he goes back to the promises that we gave Russia during previous administrations. Shaitan, not now. Lay down. And that we broke, and ultimately led to where we're at today in that conflict. So I would strongly encourage you to scroll down and take a look at that interview with Mr. Kennedy that he did just a few days ago. And he goes into the history of that in a really good way that is actually the way it happened. Like I've said in previous videos, I have family that comes from the Ukraine. And I've been there. I've been to Ukraine, I've been to Russia, I've been to Germany, I've been all around Europe when I was younger. And I wasn't touring as an influencer and running around doing vlogs, and I was over there visiting family members and meeting people that were from there in a way that you were visiting. You were a visitor in their home, and you weren't there to monetize anything. You weren't there to exploit the trip in any way to generate revenue. It was just for me and my brother, when we would go when my mother would take us there, it was a learning experience for us to learn other cultures and to learn other ways of life that people live that we didn't have to live here in the States, which when we got home made us appreciate living here all that much more, because those people even I remember some of the trips to Germany, just even in the 90s, you'd still see in like Hanover, in places like Hanover, you can go into Hanover, Germany in the 90s and still see buildings that were damaged from World War II. They haven't completely rebuilt all of Germany yet, and there's still people there feeling the pain of that war, and even though it's been so many years later. So it, this this conflict was avoidable in many ways, and in the biggest way it would have been avoidable is if our leadership here in the States would have just lived up to the agreements they entered into years ago, instead of saying one thing, but then over the course of administrations doing completely opposite things that put Russia on the defensive. And like I said, Mr. Kennedy does a very good job of explaining that, how that all took place, and the way he described it is accurate and true. And he's also a candidate that I'm looking at in terms of one that kind of goes in line with what I've been saying in my videos. We need to focus more on our problems here. We can't be the world's social service agency. You know, forget about the world's ATM. We can't be the world's social service agency. Countries need to learn how to handle their own problems, and you know, we can help, but we can't always be their first call. We have our own problems, and we've ignored our own problems for so long that it's really hurt us in so many areas. So many areas. You know, I was watching even on Fox last night. Fox was covering the Supreme Court decision lately that's involving affirmative action and student loan debt relief. And I've never been a big fan of either. But when it comes to the affirmative action being handled the way it was handled by the Supreme Court, I think they were wrong in that regard, because it hasn't been fair. So we did need to legislate some things to keep entry into schools and particular occupations fair, and affirmative action did that. And it's concerning to see what lies ahead with that now being changed. And then the student loan debate, I know, you know, I'm probably going to take a beating on this, maybe lose a couple followers over this, but after listening to the students' protest in front of the courthouse, and this was being aired on Fox last night, I get their point. You know, they were promised a lot when they took out those student loans, and there were people chanting in the background, "Pay your bills, pay your bills, pay your bills." Well, yeah. They should pay their bills, but they also don't have the opportunities that existed when they, like when I took out my initial student loans when I was their age. You know, you know, I grew up in a household where my father was the only one that worked. You know, he had his job. You know, he ended up being a bum and leaving my mom, but before he did that, he was a newscaster in Detroit, He did the business news, one of the major news channels, and he was also a successful stockbroker. And the and my mom didn't have to work. She was able to stay at home, and he always drove a new car, and we lived in a good neighborhood of Detroit at the time, and since the Rosedale Park was one of the better areas of Detroit, and they bought their house for $30,000, which for that time was a lot of money, and the monthly payment was, I think my mom's monthly payment after the bum left, because when I call him a bum, he was a womanizer, and he was into the coke, and he was living a lifestyle because of his income that made him a terrible husband and a terrible dad. But he was a very smart business person. But he left, and my mother was, starting out with nothing. But her house payment was only $130 a month. And that was with a mortgage through Comerica Bank. Now today, where are you going to find that? Where are you going to find a 3-bedroom home with a basement in any city for 30 grand that's got an attached garage, double wide yard, and it was it was in really good shape. It wasn't a dilapidated house. It was a well built, well made house, and it looked nice. And she only paid $130 a month on her mortgage. Today, that same house would be $250,000 and have at least a $1,500 a month payment. So you just, and that's probably being very conservative. So when I think about these kids and the student loan payments, their argument that we, my generation, when we took out our student loans, it was a different program. The interest rates were different, payments were different, much lower, and when we got out of school, there were actually jobs in the field that we went to school for that were actually available. But that's not the case today. With the global economy and companies outsourcing and sending jobs overseas and to avoid paying the salaries that they would typically have to pay here to the students that took out these high student loans. Well, we kind of put them in a bad position. And then another point they make that stood out last night that really has been a pet peeve of mine for many years anyway is all the bailouts we do. We did how many bank bailouts, how many times we bailed out Wall Street, and yet we can't bail out our own kids. That doesn't add up. If we're willing to bail out banks and give them hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're willing to bail out Wall Street to keep that from collapsing, why can't we help the kids so they have a better future? Kind of selfish on our part to think otherwise. And I would think that the people that don't think that we should be helping the students in forgiving their student loan obligations, they probably don't think that we should be bailing out Wall Street and the banks either, which we can find common ground on, because that's an area that these bankers and Wall Street they need to learn how to live within their means, and not do the things that they do, knowing that they can always fall back on the federal government to come and rescue them. So I'm hoping that the student loan program isn't off the table as far as getting some relief for these kids, because they need it, especially now with the future that we face. They're gonna need that break, and now would be the time to do it. So hopefully, I'm not a big fan of Biden. Hopefully he continues to push in that direction, or whoever is holding him up to help push. I don't know, but I hope that administration continues to try and give these kids the relief they need from this excessive student loan debt that they're stuck with, because all too many of them are stuck with these huge loan payments and have to be baristas at Starbucks because the jobs that they went to school for just aren't there. There's just not enough there right now. Now that can change if we start to focus on the problems that we have to deal with here. If we start focusing on fixing our infrastructure the way it needs to be fixed, that creates more construction jobs. So then the kids that went to trade schools to learn how to do concrete and learn how to do electrical work and mechanical work, they will have more better paying jobs available to them, because those jobs pay good, or can pay good if there's enough of them to go around. But it's going to take the government to kickstart those things here, and not over there in Ukraine, because Ukraine's going to need a lot of reconstruction. There's no doubt about that. But we shouldn't be the ones running that. We gotta focus on getting our roads repaired, and not just doing a shit job of doing our roads. We need to start building our roads like they're building them over there, where they're built to last. There's some roads in Detroit today that I've driven down recently that no joke. I mean, I don't think this is an exaggeration. I still think that there's some roads that the Romans built back in the day that are in better shape today than some of the roads that exist in Detroit are. That's an amazing thing, that the Romans, all those years ago, built roads that are still, they're more of a tourist attraction today, but they're still in better shape today than some of the roads in the city of Detroit are. And that's just an amazing concept to try to grasp. But it's the truth. And we do it, we repave our roads. I'll never forget, we repaved 275 from 696 up to, this is before we had M5. There was a stretch, like a 5 to 10 mile stretch of 275 that they laid a whole new, they repaved with asphalt in the middle of January. And I'm watching this, and I'm being inconvenienced with the orange barrels. And I'm thinking, why are they doing this in January? This isn't going to hold. And sure enough, the following year, what they did the previous year was all falling apart, breaking apart, and they had to do it all over again. It just, none of this makes sense. Another project that comes to mind is Haggerty Road. Before they had M5, Haggerty Road was the only way to get to a town that if you worked in Farmington, Livonia, your only way, but you lived in Union Lake, Waterford, one of your only ways to get back and forth was Haggerty Road, and it was just one lane going each way. And some knucklehead leader thought it was a good idea to put in water lines one year and sewer lines the next. So I can't remember which they did first, because I had I lived in Waterford, but I had a business, the business that I got in trouble over. This state senator. Well, I'll get into the details of that, but that was my first legal problem that Fox News pointed out very vividly in their coverage on when I did the recall with Kilpatrick. But that involved a really bad real estate deal that a state senator got me sucked into. And he, I'll cover that. I'll go into that during one of the episodes. But I went to the city and I said, I like the idea of you running the water. I can't remember if they did the water first or the sewer first. But I ended up going to the township and I said, look, are you doing the water? Let's just say that it was the water first. I can't remember. I'm thinking it was the sewer first. Let's say the sewer. You're doing the sewer. Why aren't you doing the water? And they told me, well, we don't have the money to do the water. I says, okay. All right, well, sewer will be nice. And water wasn't on the table at the moment. So they tore up Haggerty Road and made Haggerty Road was already a mess to drive to begin with. It was like bumper to bumper from Mile Road to Mile Road every morning and every evening going back to work or back home. It was miserable driving, and that project to put sewer lines in made it even worse. So we went through that experience, and we all lived through it. Some of us didn't. There were some car accidents that resulted in deaths, but they finished the project, and it was cool. I loved it, because I had a business right there at the corner of Union Lake Road and Haggerty Road, the building that got me in trouble. Now had sewer that I didn't have. I had a septic system, so that was a good thing. But then the following year, they advised us that they're going to be reassessing our properties because they're going to be running water. And I'm thinking, okay, great. That'd be nice to have water, but why didn't you do this last year when you put the sewer lines in? Because in order to put the water lines in, now you got to tear up what you just did last year and do this all over again, which is exactly what they did. So I go back to the township and I says, hey, what was that guy's name? I'm trying to think of that building inspector. Oh boy, I really disliked him. He was miserable to deal with, and he was the chief building inspector for Union Lake for forever and a day at the time. Old guy, miserable to talk to. And I'm talking to him during the delay here with the internet. His name was Mitchell. I I don't know if that was I think his name was William Mitchell, was his name. That's it. To be honest with you, he was a real asshole. And he, I said, you know, why are we doing this again? Why didn't you wait? He says, well, we didn't have the money to do both last year. You didn't have the money to do both last year, but you were thinking about it. Well, if you were thinking about it, you had to have been thinking about it. Why didn't you wait? Why did you do what you did last year? We could have waited another year for sewer, and then you could have did both at the same time. And you know, you try to talk common sense to these people, like Mitchell, and they get offended. Their feathers get ruffled, and their panties get all knotted up, and then they start treating you poorly. And that was the beginning of why I had problems with them legally. But you know, because I was pretty vocal about their incompetence. You know, it's just, you know, you ran the sewer lines, you tore up the road, and now you're going to inconvenience us again and tear up the road all over again to put in the water lines. So you're spending your and we do this over and over and over again in so many. It wasn't just Union Lake. We do this in a lot of projects all across the country, I'm sure. I'm not just going to pick on this particular township or that particular locale or county. This happens nationwide. This is what we need to get. Well, obviously I need to get my booster installed, and I need to get to mail. So I'm going to end this now before we lose connections again. But these are the things that we'll discuss in future episodes of the podcast, because I've got a lot of great examples, and I can document this stuff. That's why StreamYard is going to be very helpful to me, where I can show you what I'm talking about, so you just don't think I'm exaggerating or making this stuff up. Because because once you're convicted of any type of wrongdoing, then they love to make it appear that anything you say is now suspect or BS. And which isn't the case, you know. Just like our gun laws, you know, I shouldn't have to protect myself with a butter knife or rely on calling 911 in the event that I'm being, you know, I have to deal with something dangerous, because I have a nonviolent felony conviction that prevents me from carrying a weapon. And these are areas that we need to revisit, because it's outdated. It's not good policy. You know, there's no reason why nonviolent people should not be able to defend themselves like people that others are, and we have just as much concern as they do. But I need to go. You know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you're late with these people, they will make you reschedule. And this appointment, it's really important that I get to this appointment today. I already rescheduled this once, not because I was late, but just because there was something that came up that I had to reschedule, and it's an important appointment. So I'm going to end here. I hope you all have a blessed day. Stay safe. And if you have the day off, because it's still a holiday for you, enjoy it. But stay safe and be mindful of why you're having today. It's not about just a reason to celebrate. It's a reason to, my last video I called it Memorial Day weekend. You know, I've been so wrapped up in things that I misspoke. You know, it's the 4th of July weekend. You know, I know the difference between the two. But okay, I'm gonna go. But again, stay safe, enjoy your day, have fun, but reflect on what today is about, and tomorrow. And try not to piss your neighbors off with all the fireworks.